Oklahoma has a very diverse natural landscape. There's quite a bit of change as we move from the eastern part of the state to the western part of the state. And in the Panhandle, which is where we are right now, it's very different in geography and climate. So we thought we'd do a series on gardening in northwestern Oklahoma and the Panhandle. Well, if you've never been to this part of the state, it can be quite tough when it comes to gardening. To start with, the Panhandle gets a lot less rainfall than the rest of Oklahoma. On average, as you travel in Oklahoma, every 15 miles from east to west, you lose an inch of rainfall a year. And that can be very important when it comes to growing certain types of plants. Also, as you can tell, it's very wide open out here, so there's a lot of wind to deal with when it comes to growing our garden plants in this part of the state. The soils are also very different out here. Because of the low rainfall, the soils are very alkaline, or they have a high pH, and that's because there is calcium carbonate present in the soil. Now in Stillwater, where our studio gardens are, and further east, we get enough rainfall that it leaches out the calcium carbonate in our soils. But out here, where it's a lot drier, that calcium carbonate stays in the surface of the soil and it just causes that high pH. And that's pretty typical of a lot of arid regions around the world. Well, to grow out here, you've got to be a tough plant. And what we have right here is one of the native plants that we see a lot in the western part of the state, in poor soils, sandy soils, and this is the Buffalo Gourd. It's a very tough plant because it can survive when a lot of the other vegetation in the area starts to die. As you can see, it's the only thing green in this spot, but it's one of our native gourds, and we see these a lot in western Oklahoma, in disturbed sites, sandy, rocky places. So that also just kind of lets you know how tough the plant is. The storage organ, or its tuberous root, which is like a huge tap root, is a very good way for this plant to store water when it needs it, when it gets really dry. In fact, they dug one of these up once where the tuber actually weighed 160 pounds. So the plant has a storage organ to help survive drought and heat. And also the plant gives off a very bad odor, so we don't want to touch this too much. The Buffalo Gourd does produce gourds, like we've got right here. They're about the size of tennis balls. And these, of course, are related to our other gourds. One of the big differences is that this native Buffalo Gourd is a perennial, whereas our other garden gourds are annuals. But they're related to the cucumbers, the watermelons, the squash, and other cucurbits. Well, I hope you enjoy these segments on gardening in the Panhandle.